Good morning everyone. In this video I'm going to be analysing the live price action for EU and DXY to see what opportunities may be available today. You're going to see my strategy and my analysis, so if you're interested in those then please stick around. Okay, starting off on the daily, we have EU on the top, DXY on the bottom. What's the daily showing us? Well, if we have a look at yesterday, we closed out as this sort of long-legged doji, maybe a bit of a high test, because if we look, we clearly went above previous weekly high and some previous highs as well for buy side liquidity, and that caused us to close out bearish ultimately, right? So into today we think, well, from this higher time frame, are we going to continue bearish, right? We've taken plenty of buy side liquidity, as I said. We were heading bearish anyway, right? So possibly we are. Today we've started off quite bearish already, so there's a bit of bearish momentum. So possibly that's true, that buy side liquidity is sponsoring this move here. We've got the previous daily highs and lows still intact for buy side and sell side liquidity. So if we have a quick look at DXY, of course it was trending bullish yesterday, sort of a low test, long-legged doji, again the opposite of EU. However, we had that divergence clearly from these lows here to this low, right? We had a higher low indicating some sort of strength. So possibly we've taken enough internal sell side liquidity to sponsor that move up. Also the previous daily highs and lows are still intact obviously. So at the moment I'd say on the daily everything looks to possibly continue its trend now, right? This is holding its bullish structure and EU has taken buy side liquidity, right, to possibly continue its bearish direction from previous. However, we'll need to see this in more detail on a lower time frame. So in saying that, let's go down to the 4 hour and see what that shows us. So on the 4 hour, into our recent day's price action from the end of June, it looks to be that we've created a new bullish leg here, right? We've created this high low, broken these highs, created a high high, clearly closed above all of these highs, okay? So we've got bullish leg, taking that buy side liquidity, going into this old imbalance here, mitigating more of it. That obviously sponsored that bearish move yesterday. So that daily picture and the 4 hour, there's a bit of conflict, which I'll explain in terms of we've now got a new bullish leg, whereas on the daily it kind of looked like buy side liquidity was swept and it may sponsor that move downwards. So with this bullish leg, we can't be sure if we're going to see some support around this area in this discount here, right? So that's something we've got to keep an eye on to watch out for. It all came from this sell side liquidity sweep here. Once we swept the lows of this previous external leg here, swept the lows and we created bullish order flow. So we're at that point now where we're questioning, is that bullish order flow going to continue? So it's not cut and dry bearish like it may have seemed on a higher time frame, though we do have now bearish momentum obviously. Now if we look at the inverse on DXY, DXY is still holding its bullish structure. We still have high high, high low, high high. We did have this failed higher high here, which has created that new bearish leg the same way that EU has created that bullish leg. However, that bearish leg here, hopefully this isn't confusing, is still internal to this external bullish leg. So we came down, ultimately mitigating the POI here, and we are continuing bullish from there. So technically these are still weak highs, so price may be continuing to make a higher high. So there's a lot of SMC divergence all over the place, so we'll see, because clearly we're much closer to taking out these highs here on DXY than we are to taking out these lows here on EU. So we still may find some support here. There still may be some SMC divergence once we take buy side liquidity if we go to the previous weekly high. So it's not cut and dry in terms of structure and direction, because they kind of conflict with each other. Like I said, we have an internal structure which is bearish, but we still are holding that external bullish structure on DXY. So we do need to look out for those differences there. And it is quite a heavy news week as well that we need to be aware of, being the first week of the month with NFP and all those other releases. So just to summarize, possibly bullish on the 4 hour structure, though also still possibly bullish on DXY. We may still have more bearish momentum to go on EU, so we really do have to keep our wits about us and keep our attention and focus, just so we're not caught on the wrong side too often. So no obvious biases here for me just yet. However, we are playing with a bullish leg, and I'll see how price reacts around the sell side liquidity of this area here and the buy side liquidity on DXY to see if it is going to provide some resistance, causing this to be a weak low possibly, and a new bearish trend on DXY and bullish trend on EU. So let's go down to 1 hour and see what that shows us. So now onto the 1 hour, we can see these moves in a lot more detail. We have this 1 hour leg here. We had SMC divergence down there, and we had that bullish move and that gap created over the weekend, right? So that created a bullish leg. Again, at the tops here, we had a 1 hour imbalance, SMC divergence, right? All of these confluences sponsoring that move lower to this price draw, this 1 hour fair value gap, this market gap here. Price has been drawn down into it, and you know, we fill the 4 hour imbalance. We've still got a little bit of room to completely fill the lower time frame imbalance here, but this is a high time frame POI that's slightly mitigated. It's also, you could consider a 1 hour order block here as well, though of course a bit more confusing with that gap, but there is an order block here. It did create a higher high. DXY is the same. Like I said, we had that bearish leg here. We came down to the discount of that external bullish leg, right? Held the lows, making a higher low, obviously causing that SMC divergence, giving that bullish possibly pullback or to continuation to make a higher high. Now into today's price action. As you can see, after that bearish move, after some news, we left behind a 1 hour order block. We did that on both DXY and EU. So here's where things start to get interesting again, right? We have a bullish leg, we have an internal bearish leg here. We've more than filled that imbalance here on DXY, but we've pulled back to a premium now of this internal leg and the external leg. We have these 1 hour POIs as price draws, right, which may provide resistance and support. So it could be support now to if we do take buy side liquidity and come to it to go bullish and to go bearish. However, obviously we'd be going bearish within this bullish leg, right? But it could be a continuation from the higher time frame confluences that we are to continue our bearish trend. So I hope that's not too confusing, but these are just things to consider, right? These are possible resistance points. If we was to go long, you may want to get out by here or not go long too close to it or within it. So the structure and where we are in price now, back into a discount, possible POI here, sell side liquidity here. This could create a move to go long. This would be, I'd want to exit before here, and I'd want to exit before here on DXY. DXY is close to taking buy side liquidity, EU is close to taking sell side liquidity here. We have this trend line buy side liquidity here, trend line sell side liquidity here from Asia, right? So once we take some sell side liquidity, it may sponsor a move to mitigate all of this back up into this POI. That's where my thinking is at the moment. I'd be using the internal bearish leg here and the bullish leg here on EU from a discount and from a premium to continue its possible new structure and trend at least back up until this point. So the 1 hour is giving me a bullish bias, at least for the London session, right? Once we take some sell side liquidity possibly and go deeper into this imbalance here. So that's how I'm thinking at this moment. Like I said, bigger picture, I'm not sure on all the structure with the 4 hour, the daily and whatnot, but using the 1 hour and where we are with our liquidity and possible POIs, I'm thinking at least short-term bullish to this point. Then at this point, we'll see whether the market is looking to continue that bullish structure on EU, or we're going to continue bearish from here and go for the lows and finally take out this new high here. So that's how I feel about that at the moment. So let's go down to the M15 and see what opportunities may look like for today. So on the M15, what would I like to see to follow that bias? Now again, we have news today, right, within a few hours, so I wouldn't be executing around this time. It's high impact news. What's happened so far today is, of course, Asia overnight created a trend line, created this for us, this buy side liquidity. We are in sort of bearish order flow still. You know, this is the 15-minute leg, it's working with it. So we're yet to switch bullish or anything like that. However, you know, internally we did attempt to. It mitigated this 15-minute POI just slightly here and had this corrective sort of pullback downwards. But now what's important to me? Well, we've taken some internal sell side liquidity here already, right? Do we need to take the previous daily low? Maybe. DXY is very close to that previous daily high. So it would be great if we did take this previous daily high for buy side liquidity on DXY and possibly the previous daily low on EU. However, we don't have to take that previous daily low, because if we take this previous daily high and break down, then we will also have SMC divergence, right, indicating some bullish strength on EU. So what I would like to see is this on DXY. That would be breaking that structure here, of course, right? And then we get our pullback to go lower towards that 1 hour POI, which may be a draw on price. And then what that could look like here on EU would be us to either hold these lows or go lower. Either way, we've taken internal sell side liquidity and then break above our high here for a breaker structure, and then possibly get our corrective move down to do the same, to pull up towards our 1 hour POI where we may find resistance or not. Right, we are in a discount here. Will price close this first? I don't know, but as long as it sweeps sell side liquidity from here, possibly from here if we take this previous daily high, and then break structure. So break of structure around here, possible inducement during the pullback from here, possible lower time frame, order block and imbalance here, set our order to go bullish, stop loss just below the lows. That's what I'd be looking for, something like this, maybe even on the 5-minute if it creates structure down here, because the M15 structure is quite high up. So the breaker structure is quite high up. I would want to get as much of this trend line on my side as possible, right? So I'd want to take this out myself. That's what I'd want to aim for. So price may well come down lower, and if we're lucky, maybe it will just create that structure around here, right? And we'll get something like that, and the break will happen a bit earlier to go up. Maybe we'll get a break a bit lower down. If we do take out this low, we'll create some structure. So that would be nice. But yeah, that's the most immediate thing I'm looking for, using the sell side liquidity, using the buy side liquidity from DXY, where potentially, and obviously an OB from yesterday will be holding that, but the sell side liquidity is what counts. We've got a price draw here, we're in a bullish leg potentially, but again, I'll be careful, I'll be cautious. There's no rush, there's a lot of news today. Order flow has not switched bullish yet, so definitely be careful of that. We've definitely got some momentum, right? Some bearish momentum at the moment, with an order block even here as resistance, right? So this is a good break of structure happening now. So for me personally, even though I'm saying this looks good as structure for shorting, I won't participate, because sell side liquidity has been taken, buy side liquidity has been taken, and we'd be filling, you know, we'd be mitigating more of the gap here, things like that, that I just wouldn't like to be against me personally. That's everything. I'm going to be cautious, possibly looking for longs around here, and I would only be looking for sells once we're up into this area and structure then shifts to go downwards. So I hope you gained value from that. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.